This tutorial we're going to go through is about using Illustrator as an experimental tool using the Autotrace. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to jump into Photoshop. Okay, and I've got this image here. At the moment, the image size says that it's a fairly big image, so 106 centimeters, and it's 72 resolution. You probably don't want to have your images at too high a resolution. In this case, we're going to make it a bit smaller by essentially cropping it down. So I'll get the cropping tool. Hit enter on that, and I'll just enlarge that up slightly. Now if we have a look at it, just through the cropping, the image is going to be a lot smaller. So now it's just 30 centimeters by 72 as a resolution. So the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to clear cut it to the figure. So if I hold down here, I'm going to get the object selection tool. So the object selection tool is a great way to pick an object now, where if we drag around the person, for our purposes, it actually does a pretty good job. In fact, there's nothing that I can kind of, I would really change on here. It's a little bit of here. So if you want to add to the selection, you just hold down the shift key. And you can add little bits on. That's a wee bit too much. So if I hold down the Alt or the Option key, I can subtract some of these areas out as well. Alt again. And there we go, it's starting to define it. I'm not going to worry about this bit here. We just want a reasonably rough cutout. So over here I'm going to click on the lock to undo it, and that means I can now turn this selection into a mask. So if I come down here, click on the mask tool, and there we go. I've got a mask beside the layer, and this image is now cut out. So I'm just going to save this. Save it to the computer. Desktop, and in this case I'm going to make a new folder. Just going to call it Autotrace, create, give it a name, it's a Photoshop file. There we go, okay, and it's saved. So now I can jump back into Illustrator. And I've got a new page here that I've just referred to as a test page. So File, Place, Desktop, and I'll find that folder that I made, Autotrace. Here's my image. Okay, and I'll place that. If I click, you can see it's still quite a big image. So I'll just hold down the shift key and scale it down a bit. Maybe bring it up a wee bit more. So now into the Autotrace. If this menu isn't up, you'll find it under the window. You'll have image trace there. And there's a whole lot of options across here. So you've got black and white and outline and high color. I've just got it on, at the moment it says black and white. And maybe I'll go through black and white just because it's a little bit quicker to show you what some of the options are. So if we click Open Advanced, we're going to use these features. Now we'll click Preview, and it gives us a black and white option. I'm just going to Control or Command plus on this so that we can look at some of the line work and see exactly what's happening. Threshold for black and white is just going to make it darker or lighter. The paths, if we put it on low, you can see what happens to the edge. It becomes a bit more graphic. It's not following the image too tightly. If we go the other way, it can become too much. It becomes really, really bitsy. So we want to pull that down to about 3/4 is usually pretty good. Corners, do you want less? So it's going to become more organic. More, it's going to become a little bit sharper and more angular. So again, I'm probably going to push that more to the lower side. The noise is this kind of fractured detail, all these little bits. So if I hold down the spacebar and just move the image up to look at the chin, you'll see it a bit better. So when the noise is low, you can see all the little bits starting to turn up. If it's up high, it's going to ignore all these little wee bits and pieces. I'm going to play with corners a little bit more. I might push that right down to the bottom, and the noise just down. I actually push that right up to the top as well. The method, at the moment we're going to have this first box ticked, and we'll see an example later on that shows us for the reason why. And now I'm going to just reduce this image back down again, and we're going to put it into color this time. Automatic. Put it on automatic because it's a color image. So it's going to do it in color. Now the threshold this time refers to the number of colors. So at the moment I've got it on 25. I can bump that up a bit. Maybe even a little bit more. And one more go, give it a little bit more. Alright, we'll just try this one like this. So once we've previewed it, everything looks okay. I'm going to go ignore whites. Means it won't get this box around the edge. And now I go Object, Expand. Yep, just go OK. And so it's now going to break it down into all the line work. Now I can click off the image, and what I use to play with is I use the direct selection tool. So if I click on that, and I drag around the image to about here, then I can start to do things like, okay, the fill, I'm going to have it as none. The lines, I'm going to have them as black, and I'll put it right down low. So I'm just going to go 0.1, click off, so you can start to see what's happening. Because the color count is so low in here, if I click on let's say, let's try this color here. If I select that and I go select, same fill color, it'll go through the rest of the image, picking all the same colors. This works well when it's an image that doesn't have too many colors. Then you'll get things that line up. If it's a very complex image, you click on one thing and every other color is a little bit different. So I can color that, so full of blue, and a line with none. Now the thing that can be quite nice with this sort of imagery as well is, one, you can select out areas. So if I shift, click, find a few images, you can chuck them with a color. So again, a line of none. I could give it the same kind of black outline. I'll just leave it as none. The direct selection tool as well, if I drag around an area and let go, you can see that these points around here, the dots are white, and these points are darkened in. So these ones have been selected. So it's kind of a two-part process. If I hit delete once, it gets rid of those darkened ones, and you can see that everything else has gone dark. So if I hit delete again, it gets rid of all of it. Now I think that's a bit much, so I'm going to go Command Z and bring back part of it. Again, whatever it touches when I drag, those are the bits that are selected. Delete, just cutting a little path through there. So you can really start to open the image up and get these kind of unique options. An area like this, if I click and drag, it's going to move a piece. Command Z. So I go Command Y into the key line, and then I'm back to this mode again. Command Y will take it back to preview, and I can do it from here. So delete. In this case, when you're going through colors, the first delete doesn't do so much of a good job. It kind of takes out a chunk that doesn't look so organic. If I hit delete again, then this kind of fracturing becomes a lot more interesting. Let's just reduce down so we can see what we're getting. We can select across part of the image, and in this case the line work, I can change that so you can kind of get colors coming through. Maybe some of the stuff, if I drag around these lines, I might decide that I want to change them to a dash. Oops. Oh, that's quite interesting, like having it at 12 dash, that's the one it's picked up on. So that really starts to fracture the image there. I'll leave that one, and maybe I'll just grab this line and I'll make that, oops, a little bit smaller. So let's just try 1. And you can see the little dotty line going through it. You get some interesting effects here. We have a solid line and a dotty line with two paths that are kind of overlaid. You'll find with some of the stuff, I'll go Command Y. If I move it, there's actually the same shape underneath it. Let's see, and that's why you're getting these funny little details where it's dashed in parts and solid in others, and you can get a really pretty interesting result. Not quite sure whether text came from. I'll open up the here a bit. One delete. You can get some really interesting results when you thicken up the lines a bit. Let's try some through here. So we'll thicken them up a bit. 2 point. Change the color. We've got these curves here where we can round it off a bit. So if we look at these edges, we'll just enlarge up on these. So rather than having the square edge, or maybe some of them can be left square and you can select other lines and kind of round them off. I'm just going to have them on round at the moment. I'm not going to round the corners so that you end up with these kind of sharp modes that pick out, but with the kind of rounded caps. So corners are sharp and the caps or the ends are rounded. Just down on that a bit. Of course, you have all sorts of options here. If I click on this, you can see everything's selected. I've got the selection tool now. I can go Object, Ungroup, and just keep ungrouping until it doesn't do it anymore. And then all of these areas are going to start to become a bit more independent. And let's have a look at attributes. Is it? That's not. Sorry, it's appearance. So now with some of these options here, let's have a look at this. I'll click on this one. The opacity, I can now change it to something a bit different. I'll change it from normal to multiply. And let's expand it up a wee bit. Check the appearance in here. I don't know if that really looks all that glamorous to be honest. Okay, so multiply with a bit of yellow, because some of these shapes that one's not actually doubled up, but I'll Command copy, Command F, so it's pasted on top, and I've scaled up a bit, and then this one I'll go in appearance, opacity, change that to multiply, see what happens here. Not too much, so let's try overlay. It's pretty subtle. I'd need to go to another colour, I think, before it starts to make any great difference. And you can see it's sitting behind these shapes. Command Z to just bring it back, so I can go Object, Arrange, bring it to the front, and now it's going to have more impact as it goes across here. So you really can start to mess with the images and play with them, and end up with quite a variety of lines and shapes and things going through it. So I'm going to stop this video here and then carry on with another one.